Welcome, Rugby Mates. We've made it to the second episode. Greens, we are going to get straight into the action.
The worst weekend ever for the Celts. I mean, the first half was an absolute masterclass.
How much of a leveller are conditions like that?
Thing when you're on the end of a potential humbling.
Would you have won with Jono and yourself on the pitch?
They destroyed the Scottish line out. I was going mental.
Were you?
Oh,
You could get used to this, Greens. A pint in hand, great pizza, Sunday night, chatting about the rugby. Happy days. Welcome, Rugby Mates. As Green says, we've made it to the second episode. Amazing scenes. And Greens, we are going to get straight into the action. And I suppose the first place to start is an overall view of this round.
Yep.
Round one in 6Nations history. Where does this come?
The worst weekend ever for the Celts. 1 point between three teams. Admittedly all on the road, but Scotland, Wales, Ireland. Scotland humbled, Wales and Ireland battered. A show of strength from the two powerhouses that everyone expects to fight for a Grand Slam on the final weekend, no matter who says you can't get ahead. You got to win the games before you get there. But it all felt before the tournament started that all roads lead to Paris on March the 14th. And the first 3 days sum that up. And then for Italy, after 26 years of being viewed as a team who just work hard and try hard, actually in amongst the pouring rain, showed dynamism, showed power, showed some subtlety, some wonderful analysis to work on Scotland's new back three to create space for the ball in behind or the ball over the top, and thoroughly deserved their win. So, cracking opening weekend if you're not a Celt.
Yeah. I should have started really about where we are. So we're at Knead Pizza again in Maidenhead. We've got a live studio audience. Give us a little cheer, folks. Yeah, there they are.
Went from 19 to 20.
That's it. But I'll tell you
It's
what.
growth.
I
5% growth.
I could get used to this, Greens. A pint in hand, great pizza, Sunday night, chatting about the rugby. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've actually had a cracking day watching sport. Obviously, the City comeback at Liverpool, but I've been watching the Winter Olympics. And I found a sport that sort of, if you could transport their mentality into a rugby player's brain. Do you know biathlon?
Yeah.
Ski, like not downhill ski, just power your legs with ski up and down a bit on a loop, and then slow the heart rate down. Have to take 5 shots, 5 lion shots, then the second loop round, 5 standing shots. And I watched the French led home by this unbelievable lady. It's an incredible sport. Heart rate at 180 as you power up the hills. And you just sort of compare that to rugby and what defines great rugby teams. Rugby teams that can operate with their heart rate at 180 and yet still have the ability to make the right decisions under pressure, to deliver the right pass. And yes, of course, size helps. A good big un tends to be a good little un. But I think over the course of the weekend, the teams that have done really well would potentially make great biathletes. Supreme power, great speed at times, and then the ability to look up, see what's in front, breathe, and deliver the pass or the kick that puts their pal into space.
Love it. Right, folks, the way that this podcast is going to work today is we are going to go through the games in chronological order. So we're going to start with Ireland-France, which of course kicked off on Thursday night. First question for you, Greens. Did you like that? I know it had to do with the Winter Olympics, but a Thursday night kickoff, it looked lively.
Yeah, I love it. I tend to, once the Super League season starts, I get home from rugby training and put the Super League on. So on this occasion, actually, we finished training about 8:30. We'd missed the first 10, 15 minutes. So I don't think we'd quite caught little Beerberry's first try and then picked it up and watched it from there in the clubhouse, legged it home at half-time, got home for the second half. Magic. I think there's an understandable reason why they kicked off on a Thursday. There will always be naysayers and doom-mongers who hate change, like Statler and Waldorf from The Muppet Show. There'll always be people miserable about the adverts in the game and just behave. Everyone moans that it's not on satellite TVs, there's too many subscriptions, we want it on terrestrial TV. And then terrestrial TV, in order to afford to buy it, have to make their money somewhere. So they stick an advert when no rugby's happening and everyone whinges. Anyway, so Thursday, an obvious reason why. A potential advantage for France long term. They don't play till next Sunday. They get 10 days between games in a tournament that goes Saturday for some. It's a marginal gain, but as we all know, if you do 100 things 1% better, you tend to be quite good.
I'm going to take you to a specific moment very early on in the game, 1 minute 45 on the clock, and Charles Olivant should have gone over the line with a Bilbiri chip over the top. And I thought at that moment, hang on a minute, this is going to be a long evening for Ireland, as it proved.
Yeah, I mean, the first half was an absolute masterclass. There's so much to enjoy about the French. Their ability, you often find teams want to spread out and keep the width. Actually, when the French have got you, I know they'll use Bilbiri on the edges and Deporter, and they've got a wonderful back three. But actually, when they're at their best, they just go through your gut. And there's an amazing thing that they do that it goes back to Pierre Villepreux from the 70s, and it was carried on 80s with Philippe Sella, Carbonneau, Cambrobero, the little scrum half. I've forgotten his name. Some of the older brethren in the crowd might shout, the great Petit General from the 80s and 90s. And what they actually do is they don't pass the ball. They leave the ball in space. What the French do at their best is they move offline. They don't run in straight lines. So you can tuck in behind a ball carrier and just allow them to go where they want. And then when they go where they want and they turn a defender's hips and the hips goes with them, all they do is they just leave it in the space that they've vacated. Therefore, actually, you're not passing it. The bloke behind isn't trying to judge where you're going. He's just trailing in behind. There was one beautiful one where Ramos picked it up from scrum half, darted round the right-hand side, and you think he's passed it to no one. But Dupont understands exactly what he's doing and just accelerates through the hole. They lift the ball off the floor. Teams are starting to catch that up. I love it. The French in their absolute pomp when they're really kicking 7 bells out of you. The forwards they'll go to ground and they'll just hold the ball up like it's on a tray. And you just run through the ball. Again, so there's minimal air time. There's minimal ball movement. The ball is moving like on a piece of string, straight down the middle of the field. And their passage of play, I can't remember what period it was. I think it was 10 minutes before half-time, where their ability in wet conditions for big men to pick up and move and shift it and changing of direction and ball was absolutely spectacular. And it was only the 7-6 substitutions that took place on the 50th minute that just allowed Ireland to breathe, to get a foothold in the game. Desperation in a team is a dangerous thing when you're on the end of a potential humbling. In 04 down there, we looked like we were going to get a proper kicking. And when that kicks in, when that fear factor kicks in, then you find a way to just stay in the game and not let it get too far away from you. The French fed into that by making so many changes, but they reinforced why they're so strong. They were awesome. There's so many individuals to pick out. We can talk. Yeah, please.
So I would love to talk about Dupont because I feel like, and I don't know whether anyone in the audience feels this as well, that I heard the commentator saying, he hasn't had to break sweat. He was a sort of, third gear.
Yeah.
And I was watching it going, what are you talking about? And the thing that I find amazing about him is that he's so good at all the basics that we all almost ignore that. And by that, I mean things like his clearing kicks. I mean, the distance that he gets when he needs to get the team out of trouble is incredible.
Yeah.
His box kicking was absolutely on point. And the other thing that cannot be underestimated with him is he's a little man with huge power. So when he goes into contact, which he did on several occasions, the ball's coming back. Yeah. Any other scrum half in the world at that kind of size, you're going, hang on a minute, he's getting turned over. You never feel that.
Yeah.
It's like having a little sort of a baby rhinoceros there that is always getting the ball back.
Yeah, the notes.
For me, he was just immaculate, and yet we've got commentary people sort of saying, "Oh, it didn't get out of third gear," and I'm like,
3 years ago, he almost had the perfect game in Rome, and he made one error up the left-hand side. And when someone plays that well, you start to think about Dan Carter's 33 points in the second test in 2005. You'd consider Wilkinson, March 03, away in Ireland. Everyone will have their own particular point of their country when their player delivered. Alomu, probably 95, semi-final of World Cup. There's these iconic performances. The thing about Dupont, he seems to produce them, and being considered a GOAT is the ability to produce these sorts of performances consistently at the highest level. And post his ACL, he was so confrontational. There's a couple of carries where he carried 2 or 3 with him. There was one moment in the second half where Ireland were just coming back into it, and they get a quick ball, and Jameson Gibson-Park has a little scuttle up the right-hand side. Dupont, from an onside position,
smashes him.
Absolutely smashes him, drops him to the floor, picks the ball up, off he goes, and they're away. What I love, and everyone uses their scrum half in different ways. I say everyone. England, Ireland, Scotland. I think Wales might be saying it. I know England, Ireland, Scotland actually use them the same. They try and get 2 in the backfield, and they use a scrum half on an edge. So they get scrum half on an open side. So Mitchell defends on an open side, which I think can be a potential weakness at times. I haven't found an English scrum half yet who's totally comfortable on an edge. Where France use Dupont is just say, pick your slot, defend where you want to defend. We know if you appear in the line, I'll just move a half a yard right and give you space. I'm not going to mumble and say, you get out of there, because I trust that you've seen something. He's got this free reign, so he can appear in between 10 and 12 and try and shut a 10 down on a charge down. He can appear on a wide out channel. He's strong enough to shut the door on the outside and be physical enough to do a stop tackle. And then in and around the fringes, anyone darts in and around the fringes and he's there, he belts them and knocks them over. He's behind that pack. Yes, there is still more to come. I do understand where the commentators are. The flip side of it is managing body, managing effort. And when your pack are that dominant, when Jalibert's back in the shirt after Gaultier had dropped him, he's come back probably because Ontomac's injured. Actually, he was quite selfless, gave a lot of the ball to Jalibert, and Jalibert proved his worth. That little score up the left-hand side. I know there's a lot of moaning about the knock-on of Dupont at the bottom of the scrum. I've watched that 50 times in slow-mo. I can't see his hand touch the ball. Yeah. So you're sort of grasping at straws to see that. But he was just another. But then there's other players who would never get a mention. And then there's someone like Mo Farner in the midfield at 12, who's just they call it a glue player. Just never misses a tackle. Where the French defend, they stick Mo Farner at 12. Deporteur comes they move Mofana to 10, move Deporteur to inside, and they defend with Jalibert outside all the time, because vast majority of scrum players tend to send a big guy on an 8, 9, 12 short runner, and if you do that, Mofana absolutely throttles you. So England will look at that, other sides will look at that and try and get into the 13 channel, and when he's on, they didn't go anywhere. When he went off, and they made the changes in the back line, and Gorge comes on, the Toulouse centre, who's going to be a player, but immediately McCloskey just runs straight down that channel. So you see why Mo Farner is picked. You wonder, how's Mo Farner getting in this team? What's he doing in this Flair team? Gets his shoulders, always talk about, people want to offload. They see 2 players and there's gap in between. They want to offload before they've won the contact. Mo Farner, it's very dangerous to talk about the birthing process with women in the room, and luckily my wife won't listen to this. She'd never mention birth in a rugby thing. But a baby, once the head and shoulders are through, you just slide through, right? Don't come. If you come out arms first, it's an absolute nightmare. Your doctors are being rushed in. So I don't know where I'm going with that analogy, but the reality is a great offloader comes out like he's coming out of a birthing canal. The head gets through first, right? Then the shoulders. And then once you get through there, it's easy to slip and slide and offload. And Mo Farner's ability to be able to do that is absolute class. And again, pick another player and I'll tell you why he was good. It was a real statement of intent on the Thursday night. They were 29-0 up, weren't they? And then all the 29-0 up, the subs come on. It loses a bit of its momentum. But there was so much to like. I know we'll talk a little bit about Ireland, but
we will. I mean, I think, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but for me, the big story with France was just the level of consistency across every single player in terms of genuine excellence. Actually, there was no weak link at all, and as you say, I think that they really did put out a statement on Thursday night. So let's just very quickly move on to Ireland, because they were gutsy. They did they did come back, and actually they were at one point you thought, oh, this could be a game if they crossed the line and they had an opportunity to get back. To be honest, I never actually felt like, even with that they were really gonna. It always felt that France could take that next step, and the crowd was baying for that last try as well.
You get into boxing analogies, and they'd won it after the third, fourth round.
Hadn't they? Yeah.
And then all they want to do was stay on their feet, knowing there's another fight coming a week later, and didn't deliver it, and they just kept Ireland at arm's length. I thought the impact of the Irish bench was great, not just the bench. McCloskey at 12, he's a huge human being. Everyone, I think most of the people at the top of the fantasy league had Timoney as their super sub. Nice call having Timoney, who nipped on, and it'll be interesting to see if he gets a nod in selection. Byrne never gave up. Doris never stops doing the quality, making the right decision. And there was a moment, I've got it around, sleeves rolled up, 72nd minute, right down there. And there was that awkward moment where Doris knocks it on the floor, the ball pops out, try is given. Nouri, the French defender, picked it up and passed. I think Kelleher scores, and Dixon's penalty. The ref didn't know what was going on. There was this lucky moment. It's like, right, no try. Then from there, back up the other end, Atisogbe scores. Baptiste Saram, if you are a scrum half and you want to watch, I mean, he's a throwback. There's an old French scrum half called Jean-Baptiste Elissalde. Controlled and was the general when France beat New Zealand in the 2007 World Cup. Don't know if you remember when the clock went red in Cardiff, and the All Blacks knew their World Cup dream was over for another 4 years, to quote George Grieger from 2003. Elissalde didn't actually want to kick it off the field. The clock's red. He just started running to the French fans. It's one of the great moments where you play sport and people say, oh, come on, just kick it off. Actually, when you're in those moments as a professional or even as an amateur sports player of any description, when you know you've won and you know you're going to score, you don't want it to end. And if you've got the ability to be able to breathe and understand, we've won here, I can enjoy 30, 40, 50 metres. You might get negative metres in fantasy rugby now because he ran towards his own try line and kicked it to the skies. Serran's deftness of touch, his pass is phenomenal. Another scrum half who's come back from an ACL, probably been given a chance because Le Garrec's injured. But it just shows the level of depth. Oradou, I played against his dad, David Oradou, heck of a player in the second row. He comes on. So we talk about our young kids and we think, oh, the French, it's Dupont, it's Jalibert, it's Ramos, they're older, it's Jelonge, these guys, and Marchand and Movaca. Kids, Jagu, what a player he is. I talked about him last week in their version of Pollock. Everywhere, turnovers, carrying, making space. We've gone back on France. I wanted to Ireland. Yeah, Farrell was honest after the game. Just lacked the level of physicality required to go in Paris. I'm not going to throw stones. I've been to Paris and been duffed up. It's a horrible place when their crowd gets up. When at Marseillaise, there's a difference between a Marseillaise sung and they're not confident in their team, and then there's a Marseillaise when they know they expect blood and they expect victory and they expect tries. And being on that side, you've got to be a heck of a team. I think they beat anyone in that Six Nations. I think they beat England playing the way they did for those first 40 minutes. So Ireland, didn't have enough. Missed some key players, missed some bulk. But probably, without trying to be overly rose-tinted in terms of Ireland, probably saw enough in the second half and got enough right in the second half that would allow them to feel, yes, Italy will come with confidence this week, but it would allow them to feel that they can get the show back on the road in Dublin.
And on to the next swimming match, which is kind of what it was. And I want to ask you, actually, before we get into Italy, Scotland, what the worst conditions are that you've ever played a game in?
I'm going to only say one. I could probably say three. I went to school in the Lake District. I went to school in Sedbergh. Every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was pretty similar to Rome, except our pitch was knee-deep in mud. We conveniently had brown shirts. I think some designer years ago, just, if you're going to look like muck, why don't you just create a brown shirt before you even start? So Sedbergh was the schoolboy one. I didn't play in 2000. Me and Jono were both injured in 2000 when we got beat by Scotland 1913. My old university mate, Duncan Hodge.
Would you have won with Jono and yourself on the pitch? Just straight yes or no?
Yes.
There we go.
Yeah.
I believe that as well, by the way.
Good. I think as a professional athlete, you've always got to believe that had you played, you'd have won. I do. Yeah, I would. There's a couple of other games I just think...
90% Jono, 10% you? Or?
I'd say more. On a day like that when you needed brains, I'd say 80% me.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
They made some daft decisions that day, and I was watching it in the stand thinking, oh, what are you doing? Just got overexcited, tried to play too much, and it's anyway. And then the other one I always remember, there was a brilliant Australian rugby player, ended up coaching Tigers, Paddy Howard. His first game, we went to Falcons. I think it was just called Newcastle in those days. In 1998, he'd come over, and bear in mind, he's from Sydney. And he's spent his life on the east coast of Australia, which admittedly it does rain once every 4 years. Other than that, you're in budgies and having a great time. It was a joy to play with him. And his first game was at the Falcons in 1998. It was horizontal hail. The ball never left the scrum. Whilst the ball was in line-outs and scrums, the backs, both teams were doing shuttles, trying to keep warm. And he wasn't allowed to get into a hot bath afterwards because he had hypothermia. He was in a silver blanket. And he must have been thinking, what the chuff have I moved to England for? So, desperate times, as were the conditions on Saturday. And therefore, the 12 points scored before the rain, beautifully taken, which we can analyse. 12 points in those conditions probably equate to 25 to 30 once the rain came down. Everything Gregor wanted or didn't want to happen, everything Gregor wrote down as worst case scenario, everything came to pass.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to share with everyone the text message that I got from Greens during the game. Well, as you know, straight after the game, actually, which is best backline in the Six Nations is asked to play rugby in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
And I suppose my question off the back of that is really how much of a leveler are conditions like that? And not just that, but when you know that is what's going to happen, how important are those, particularly decision making?
Yep.
It seems that you know when to go for points.
Yeah.
That they feel so much bigger in those type of conditions. And from where I was sitting, Scotland felt like they often got that wrong from my perspective. But
so where we've fallen into the trap of here immediately is we're underplaying Italy, aren't we? Let's talk about Scotland, and let's talk about Ferrari, Fischetti, and Nicotera in their front row. Who the Italian front row when they first joined the Six Nations in 2000 were pretty good at bending over, pushing, eating pizza, but didn't contribute anything to the game. They were an absolute liability in every part of the field other than the scrum. So all you had to do was make sure they didn't scrum you off any ball and then find them. They were like, it's a David Attenborough program. We would go hunting the wounded animal. The wounded animal this occasion, their props couldn't tackle below nipple height. So if they did tackle you, it was going to be a high tackle. And they couldn't tackle anyone more than 6 inches either side of them. Had no movement, no flexibility, all new to them. What a difference a quarter of a century makes. Chop tackles, carrying, playing like that. Then into the second row, Canoni and Zambanin. I think Canoni's tackle count, I think he made 28. The Nicolo he is. Lorenzo's in the back row. Nicolo, 28 tackles, 95% success rate. Their front five have added so much. That's where the development has come so far in Italy. Their back row's competitive. They destroyed the Scottish line out. They pulverised the scrum at times. They've got a midfield that's Brex and Menoncello. The big battle between Jones and Trupilotto, they won. They've got a couple of wingers who aren't necessarily the most subtle, Ioane and Liner, but they are muscle-bound and they will test you and they will chase and harry everything. So it was awesome. And then you go, obviously players have to deliver it and they get all the credit. But then you go the quality of the analysis and the coaching staff with Italy under Casada for the plays they did to set up the tries. They did obviously set up midfield. They span back the other way. They knew that Dobie is a scrum half on the wing. They knew Jordan's more of a 10 than a fullback. By spinning around the other way, they'd kept staying high on one side. And Dobie nibbled when he didn't need to nibble. By him nibbling, Jordan goes, I better go with him because the system means stay connected. Back on my numbers, right? They've got a massive dead ball area in Stadio Flaminio. Brex, who put in the first chip, Brex isn't known for his subtlety.
No.
He's like those sort of centre halves that boot you into the stand and the ball. He's a Tony Adams. His second touch is a tackle sort of thing they talk about on the football thing. So he's not known for his subtlety. And I measured that he had 35 by 45 metres. He had almost 1,500 square metres to aim at, where Liner would score. And if you're making or allowing teams that much, people will always, a well-worked move, a close to the line set play that decoys, they'll always can create an overlap. I always believe a great attack will beat a great defence. But giving someone 1,500 square metres to aim at in the first 4 or 5 minutes, and then the second try, I mean, Staines the Glasgow captain, and I understand they want to press. You want to press and put pressure, but the rain hadn't come. They went high to the sky. Dobie catches it, which means Jordan's in the bottom of the ruck. So who's in the bottom of the ruck? You've got your 11 and your 15, right? So the rest of the team are coming back. So now who's looking? Because there's 1 point, back to the France game. France got the ball turned over. First thing Dupont's doing is pointing backfield, telling Bilbiri, you go back. Second, there's a turnover. Good play. When you're not as confident about the team, it's a newer back three. I've watched it a few times. The ball goes up. You've now got your 11 and your 15 midfield in a ruck. No one's pointing. No one's looking. They go up the short side. And there's a pass that goes to Menoncello, who scores at the left-hand side, and Stein presses. So I'm going to ask you, what position on the field gave this pass over Stein? You'd expect it to be a fly half, Garbisi. It might have been Brex to his partner. It could have been Liner coming in. It could have been the fullback Marion, who plays fly half, I think, at Bennett. It could have been any one of those players. Stein made it so easy that Lamaro, the number 6, makes the pass over the top. And so if you're identifying space for opponents and giving them that's where Gregor, when the crowd goes up, then we've got restarts out on the full. But back to Italy. So Italy's analysis of the opportunity once the team had been selected. They see the team selected, therefore they go to work, they go to the skies, they go to space, they drag 11, 14 and 15 out of position. Teams were only announced Thursday. All this is happening. They're putting it into play on the team run. Of course, they'll have planned for these sorts of things, whatever, but then they've doubled down on them. They put all the chips on these things. And it's class, and it's the very embodiment of where Italy have developed in terms of their ability now, not just to be brave. We used to patronise them, and they hated it. But they were unbelievably brave. They'd thought they'd throw their bodies at midfield. Some of the guys, Massey and guys, they'd throw themselves in front of a moving train, but they couldn't connect. They couldn't work it out in attack, and they couldn't stress test you. Now Italy have the ability to stress test you, to work out a weakness, to go find space. Casada's pretty calm up there, and they were worth it. And then they defended like I was going to say Trojans, but I think, did the Romans fight the Trojans? was going to say Carthaginians, but they didn't like them. They defended like Romans. And the rain came. They nicked 3. They up in front. They've got scoreboard pressure. And Scotland, no matter how much they tried, and they tried valiantly, they had some good passages of play in the second half, couldn't recover in a swimming pool from conceding 12, aka in that weather, like dry weather, 25 points.
Rassi Erasmus isn't stupid, is he? He said after South Africa played them in the autumn, he said he reckoned that Italy were going to finish second in the Six Nations, and everyone was like, "That's just an utterly ridiculous statement." He's had 15 points, but actually, I mean,
yeah, Johnny came. Wilco's also called them as winners, and obviously you have to start to sit up and take notice. They've now got to go to Ireland. They've got to go to Paris. They have to play England, and again, they've never beaten England. They came close to beating us in a World Cup qualifier in Huddersfield in 1998. They've had other occasions. I think Steve Borthwick might have been captain, but they you might say but they haven't beaten England.
I agree.
So that is a psychological barrier. And then I mean, it's great to see that. And look, my dad, hark on about it. The greatest times of our life. My dad was one of the original pioneers of going to Italy and supporting Italian rugby, and we had the best time ever. And the text messages flying around our family are awesome. They'll always be our sort of second team.
Yeah.
And to see them now playing and competing, what they did in the line out, how they played was quality. I mean, we have to talk about how bad Scotland are at some stage. But I thought it was important to talk about Italy's management, Italy's squad, the way they've improved in not just set piece. Their props, who have always been good at set piece, are now contributing to the game. I mean, there was one tackle. Gilchrist comes on a short line, and Lamara cuts him in half. There's another tackle. Nicotera, I think almost from restart, levelled Matt Fagerson. I mean, levelled him. If you don't think you're in a game, lads, these all came in the first 5 minutes. Brex just dove in and chopped Cummings, I think, down close to the line. And just was absolute quality to watch. New Zealand. Scotland then grabbed a shotgun and shot themselves in the foot twice. But Italy were a joy to watch.
You know Gregor pretty well.
Yeah.
How does he respond to that? I mean, I confess that I thought 14-1 for Scotland ahead of this tournament was a crazy price. I really fancied them. I thought it would be tough in Italy, but I really fancied them. I think they've got a golden generation at the minute, but they keep coming unstuck. And how much responsibility sits on a coach's shoulders? How much responsibility does the coach feel sits on his shoulders? What's his response to that?
Yeah, so no, he's so much fun. Honestly, he's an absolute ledge. And the camera goes to him, and I'm just going, that's just not Gregor. That's just a human being who's being tormented by what he's watching. He's not set them up to defend like that. He's not set them up to make those decisions. He's not. There are, again, mitigated. The conditions were so bad that sometimes in life, I think you do need a bit of luck. And in the opening round of this Six Nations, he got nothing. Let's then ignore that and part of that and go, if you can't win a line out, why are France and England so good? Just imperious. It just collapsed. The line out collapsed. The scrum fell apart. They were giving some proper pens. They were giving some crazy pens away. Finn kicks a restart out. He wants to speed the game up. He wants to drill one low into the bottom right-hand corner. He catches it too clean. Dobie catches a restart where a winger would have been on the touchline. I'm on the touchline. If I'm catching it in my midriff, I'm on the touchline. It's going straight out. Instead of that, that's it. Puts his foot down. What else were they doing wrong? I got a couple of poor pens, blocking one. They got done for jumping across in the line out when the ref had warned them. So there was some absolutely daft, which allowed 12-0 to become 15, to become 18. and those threes were absolutely critical. And it was just too much for them in the end to come back from. Some of their lads did play all right. I think Dempsey's a heck of a player in the back row. Where do I go to next?
I'll tell you where we go to next. England, Wales. Atmosphere. Let's talk about that because loads of mates there, and after 20 minutes, there were people saying I didn't get out my seat for the third try, and I'm like, oh god! And I don't know. I confess I watched it on TV, but I didn't feel the atmosphere coming through, and it made me feel a little bit sad actually. But
yeah,
talk to me about what the atmosphere was like there.
Okay, the reality is, yeah, they're okay. I like what they're doing. They got a DJ in a Land Rover Defender at half time, banging out some tunes. The fireworks were awesome. The West Car Park, as it used to be, is super lively. It's all built up. But you go to sport for a contest. So when there's no contest, we've moaned for years when they lose. And then when they win easily, you can't mow, you can't mow. If we want a contest, we'll play. The only way there was going to be a contest if we played like Muppets. If we then played like Muppets, we'd moan that they played like Muppets. So the reality is, you can't blame the RFU. Actually, what the stadium now, had some friends go for the first time in 15 years. When this is just unbelievable. It is awesome. The problem is, if there's no game, and it becomes a cakewalk. If it becomes you're chasing 50 off 20 overs and you got 10 wickets in hand, no one turns up for the final day. That's the case.
Yeah.
So there will be better atmospheres at Twickenham in terms of excitement. You don't remember 48-7.
No.
And you don't get out your feet at 48-7. And you're quite happy to go and grab another pint and actually come back for the start of the second half a bit later.
Yeah.
Because actually, there's no need to.
Yeah.
You're not living every second. So,
yeah. So you messaged me saying that you felt like it was a 9 out of 10 performance for England, and I suppose I represent the fans' voice a little bit here. And I've got to be honest with you, I didn't feel that. So I watched the game and got super frustrated at the amount of kicking when we're a lot of points up. 29-0 up, and I'm looking at it and I'm seeing another huge up and under from a very talented George Ford, and I'm thinking, I'm watching Freeman have a field day, and I want to see more of him with ball in hand, and I want to see us go through phases. And kicking the ball high inside the opposition half doesn't make sense to me. And so I want to ask a man with an infinitely bigger rugby brain than me why that's
brain.
Why that's all right, fine, brain. But I want to know why that's happening. Like what?
Yeah.
It feels to me, right?
So first of all, the 9 out of 10. So it all depends what metrics you're putting on it. You could say we left 2 behind in the first half, so it should be marked down more 6.5. So my 9 out of 10 is it's 12 on the spin. Twickenham is a fortress again. They're blooded new players. Someone pulled out the day before. Another bloke comes in. Roebuck comes in. Outstanding, so gives him game time. Tozier doesn't even start. And in fact, when he comes on, he gets a yellow. Coles is turning into a worldie. We might say we're slightly light on the prop front. Bevan Rodd came on and was magnificent. So my 9 out of 10 is you can only beat what's in front of you. There were a couple of chances missed. But if you look at it holistically, the whole package of where England are, this time last week you were talking about 12 months ago, we came away, we nicked it against Scotland and we were doom and gloom. If you compare it to that and where we are, yes, it's never going to be a 10 because there is no best, because you can be better. No matter how good you think you are, you can always be better. But in the whole wider picture of where the RFU have come from, the infighting that was grabbing all the news for 5, 6, 7, 8 months last year, the financial stability of what's going on. You start putting it in there, then perhaps my 9 is coming actually and just looking at the bigger picture. Yes, the under-20s scraped a win against Wales, but they dug away, they found a way. They were, I think, 16-0 down in Northampton in a swimming pool. They're going well. The A team go over to Ireland in Munster on Friday night, and players who want to be in the senior team. I thought Ethan Roots was great. Randall was strong at 9. I think he's got limited chances, but you can only keep playing really well and hope that something happens. You start looking at that. We've not even mentioned the Red Roses, and I noticed Ailey Kildun. I'll be buying her book. She's releasing a book, Game Changer. I think it's called Game Changer.
She was on Jonathan Ross on Saturday.
Yeah, you're seeing that. Yeah, the 6 Nations, the women's 6 Nations now is after. So before it was always as an afterthought. Let's put it on and then hope that some people stay in the ground to watch the rest of it. Now they'll sell out. They'll go to different venues. So maybe my 9 was just coming out of Twickenham going, this is a heck of a stadium. We've been through some terrible times in English rugby with losing clubs and the England team performing badly. And yes, we need to win a 6 Nations and we need to win a World Cup. But in terms of the piece of the jigsaw we're putting into place at the moment, it's why I'm enjoying a couple of pints on a Sunday going, my sport's in pretty good shape at the moment.
Yeah, I love that. Now, can you go into the specific kicking points, right? Because I don't think it is just me that feels
but by the way, I was going mental.
Were you?
Oh, like so. But the problem is, so the data people will never be convinced that. So I feel what's going on, I see what's going on, or you're watching the same thing. The data people say, no. If we do that this many times, this is most likely end result. And Australia, they did the same thing, and we picked one up. And I think, or it might have been Argentina, Jomo scores. We scored against Australia from a kick. And actually the kicks we didn't necessarily regain them yesterday. Lewis Rees-Zammit did pretty well at fullback, I thought, other than getting a kick charge down early, which led to 3 and he gave an offside. I think he was strong. He dealt with the high ball pretty well. But actually the numbers say go with the spiral bomb. Now, the flip side of that is, and I may have mentioned this before, that obviously coaches can see things that a player can't necessarily feel. But I'm a massive believer that data and GPS satellites can't see things that a player can feel. And my argument would be, and I'm not trying to be sensationalist, if I had where was it? It was into the second half. We've got a line out on their 10-metre line. We can win the line out front, middle or back. We can drive, we can peel, we can go around the front, Freeman scores later on. We can literally do whatever we want right now. And it goes back and we go bomb, aerial bomb. And I just go, So that's where, but I'm obviously out of the game long enough to, and that's probably Steve Borthwick saying, stop moaning about my kicking policy. I go at him. And I would say, and I think there's times when players have to say, you can poke your game plan. We are 29-0 up. And if I'm Arundel, I've got 3, I want 5. If I'm Freeman, who at that stage haven't scored yet, get me on. My try-scoring record, I was leading try-scoring. I think I scored 6 in the 6 Nations this year. He scored 1 later on. If I'm Roebuck, I'm saying that the left wing's running 3. He hasn't had to do anything. Get me on the ball. And that's when I go, I would say I'm not trying to cause a mutiny. And again, I'm going back to all if Wilco had kicked that ball in the air, I promise you 4 of us would have kicked him. So we his game plan and said, stuff the game plan. It's 29-0. We're playing Wales here. We could win by 60. Could have one of the great days in an England shirt.
What's interesting about this conversation is it's sort of backing up the way I felt, and I think probably a lot of fans felt. And of course, we're being greedy, right, in terms of our hopes for England. We're being really greedy because we won 48-7.
Yeah.
But I think that's fair enough.
There's another moment, actually, on the being greedy. So, if I was another player, or a coach, I'd be having a word with Tom Curry about his height, the way he's approaching. Very lucky he didn't get a shoulder on the head there, because he went in with no arm and he's just getting caught. He's been caught a couple of times at Sale with yellows. just been there. Then there's another one, which when we were playing that way, so it must have been first half. We make a load of busts, we're close to the line.
Genge.
And there was a moment in there, actually earlier on in the game, Genge and Peps runs a line where Genge wants to take an outside ball off the scrum half, and they run in. It's accidental obstruction. And Genji throws the ball. He doesn't throw the ball at him, probably snarling at him. I say, fair enough, I like that. Someone's got in your way, you've got to self-police. So when they go back up the left 5 yards out and Ellis gets held up and 4 other people could have walked in, I went back, I've been watched it, and I've watched it 2 or 3 times now to make sure, did anyone, no one had a word with him.
No.
And I'd be that, if honestly, a good team.
Exactly the same thing.
If that's the one where, Ellis, if you're going to moan at him, I'm going to moan at you. So there's still those little bits where you get caught against a better team where the ruthlessness in the red zone has to become 80, 90% success rate. And there were just a couple of moments where I feel, I think the words I use are, you kick a line out or you kick a high ball when you're in total control of the game. I think you're abdicating responsibility and you're playing chance, as opposed to, I'm going to keep control of the ball and we're going to find a way to score because we're killing them everywhere. And then the other one is, I totally get the feeling that they're building, and everything they do on social media and all the chats you hear is they're a tight, well-knit team. That doesn't mean you can't have collision-rich environments verbally where you're pushing each other and actually calling each other out on spots. So, look, I stand by the 9 out of 10, but then I'm seeing a couple of little bits where I just go, if I was out there, I might just ask them, is that the right call? Did you make the right decision on that perspective?
Yeah, and I'm just going to do a direct contrast, actually, between 2 sides that we hope, from an England perspective anyway, are potentially playing for a Grand Slam. And I think it was Olivon's try, which started with a quick line out from Ramos.
Yeah.
When, to all intent and purpose, it didn't look like there was too much on, but it was like, no, we're playing here. Yeah. We are playing. And I thought to myself, we took a
couple of lineups.
Yeah,
quick lineups.
But not. There's something slightly different about the way that we did it, because when we took a quick line out, we kicked immediately.
Yeah.
George Ford threw it in, kick.
Yeah.
France didn't do that, and that's for me is the big gap at the moment between us. It feels like, and maybe you'll say that's just a historic thing. That's just the way that the French play.
I'm not necessarily taking the other side for an argument's sake, but I also go, their fly half is Jalibert, who wants to run everywhere, score tries himself. Our fly half is George Ford, who is a midfield general and wants to kick and control the game and territory. We kick long. We wanted to make it an arm wrestle, a set-piece battle. Our line-out was so destructive. I know George got man of the match. I actually, after the game, thought it should have been Ben Earl. Having watched it twice more since, Chesham walked it.
Yeah.
I mean, just walked man of the match and beat Coles into second place. And that's in a team where a kid scores a hat-trick. So I'm not being their apologies, but the players we have are going, these are our super strengths, therefore I'm going to polish it. George he's back on a sporting analogy, Warney could ball on a string. George has the ball on a string. If you've got the ball on a string and you can move people about and you've got a pack that are smashing people, defence, they'll be disappointed they conceded at 1 try. And in total control of the physical and the gain line and the confrontations, then as a 10, you're just going to go, bang, work from there. Bang, work from there. So up in the gods, playing PlayStation with it, you're saying, no, there's space there, move it. Or why are you doing that? But then in the heat of battle, they're doing that. That's still, I go back, and I'm not trying to be contradictory. So I understand why they're making their decisions. I think the learnings and the small improvements can be made where right now go off script. Now, but the reason we've gone 12 out of 12 is because we have kicked it.
Yeah.
And we have kick chased. And we have won the ball back, and our set piece has won. But then as you grow, which South Africa did to go back to back from total set-piece domination to actually a team that can play, which Saracens did for years where they were totally data-driven and then built and won 3 European Championships and 6 Premiership titles from a side that literally only followed the data. England are developing and will still make those errors. I think you're stronger on it. My view is I'd like to make these tweaks and changes in play faster rather than waiting for a Monday review.
Okay, very brief answer to this, if you can. Do you think England are able to do that in the environment that there is at the minute, i.e. Borthwick? Because
yes,
you do. You think so? You think that there is enough player power there to be able to go, no, we're not going spiral bomb here. We're ignoring that. We're going to play.
Yeah, I think the coach. Great teams are coach-led, player-driven. And I think from a team that was potentially totally data-driven and unable to get out of a game plan, we were so stuck in box kick, boredom, hell for too long. And slowly but surely the realisation, and I'm not sure where it's come from because I've not been privy to being in camp, the realisation that actually if you only set yourself up to box kick the whole time and have that, which was a strength, you become so predictable, it's too easy to defend against and people just wait and set their teams up. Like you have to have the ability to drive. I think the line-out's the best description of it. England could do everything that they wanted with the line-out. And I think if you then compare that to our attack before, we were so binary in what we did. There was no nuance. There's no variety. And variety is not about a variety show and entertaining people. A variety is about putting defences on a back foot and not allowing them to press because you suddenly are starting to do things that they haven't seen before. And England, I think, are now in that position. I think they are. But you'd have to ask George Ford that.
Okay, we're going to keep the Welsh analysis very short because I feel like it's almost been done to death, really. But if you're Steve Tandy now and you are going to face France at home next week, where'd you go? What'd you do?
Just turn up.
Turn up.
Turn up Monday. But basics. But that's if you ask Martin the same. Just turn up. Just do what you can. Be your best self. Don't go.
He's good at that, isn't he, Steve Tandy?
Yeah.
I get the feeling that is his values and what he's talking about are right.
Highly regarded on the defence side with Gregor and Scotland gone. Deserved the head job role in Wales, working with what he's got. Pandemonium and chaos off the pitch.
Yeah.
Working with a group of players that were brave. I thought, we've battered them enough on the field to batter them enough verbally on a podcast. They were absolutely woeful at times. But what the only thing you can do in life, whether in business, life, family, or sport, is like, okay, how can I be better today? And have a coaching staff that set up training tomorrow, that gives them an opportunity, that looks at France's defence, looks at Jalibert defending at 13. Can I get James, the big lad from the Scarlets, on an angle for him? Try and find some angle that gives them an opportunity to go 3 points up, 5 points up, get Forsprang Dark or whatever it is they say. Apologies for my awful Welsh. But get them singing, to get them coming down from the valleys, believing. Again, Cardiff on a Saturday, Cardiff on a Sunday. That means they're 48 hours into their drinking weekend. We'll turn up and give them something. Just try and get the public off their feet. Try and score a couple of wonder tries. Go down swinging, and just if that happens, I'm not expecting them to win, but that's all you can do as a player. And the reality is we can be doom and gloom. I'm telling you, those lads, they'll have parked it. They will have parked. I mean, they'll turn up on Saturday and think, Christ, it's France, it's Dupont, and it's this lot. But actually this week, they're professional athletes. They're having the time of their lives. They're staying in a decent hotel. They've got amazing facilities. They're 22 years old. They're getting paid a load of cash. Like, life could be a heck of a lot worse. And sometimes I think we get so focused in sports, like, oh, my God, poor them. You're kidding me? They grew up dreaming of playing for Wales. And they're like, okay, they're playing for Wales and getting beat. They're still playing for Wales. And training, even when you're getting beat, it's an absolute privilege to be able to play sport for a living. And so if you can engender that sort of spirit and go, I'll lift 1 more kilo on my bench press today. I'll run 1 meter more out on the track. Whatever it is, just finish Monday better, Tuesday better, Wednesday better. It's all you can do. You're not going to. There's no magic wand for Tandy and Wales to suddenly flip it around and become Six Nations champions.
Lessons for life from Will Greenwood. I like that. Okay, we are going to just very briefly, and I mean brief. Let's try and keep this to 60 seconds. We're going to go predictions for next week. So we've
done all the games. We've done them all.
We've done them all.
Have we? Wow. I'm having fun here.
Yeah. We are going to go predictions for next week. So we will start with the Calcutta Cup. Can Scotland put up a fight?
So,
of course they can.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, John, honestly, before I try not to flip and change, I try to be consistent. I thought England would turn up in Paris not playing for a Grand Slam, having lost to Scotland. I've watched England in second, third gear, and the power. I don't know where Gregor will go now, selection, because it's giving people one go and then dropping them is the very definition of being England cricket in the 80s and 90s. You played one game, you didn't play badly, you were out, and therefore you were terrified to play, so you didn't play. Then you obviously it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. You got 5 runs and you were out again. I think England win now. I honestly, but before this tournament started, I thought that's the banana skin that stops us going for a slam, but still gives us the chance of winning the championship, because I think we beat Ireland at home. I think we beat Italy away, and we get enough points that no matter what happens, we ended up in Paris with a chance of winning the championship. Having seen yesterday, I think now we get to Paris, and I think there's a slam on the line.
Yeah, it would be so Scotland to win next week, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Wales, France. Let's go score, because we know who's going to...
I mean, it's how many... I mean, you're only allowed 4 in your fantasy team, aren't you, from France? So you're trying to work out which ones... Oh, thank you so much. I think France... and I think they win at a relative canter, but they understand that the following week it's Saturday, so they do the same things on 50 minutes. Do they win by 20 points? Do they win 40 points to 20, concede a couple of late on to Wales, something like that? That's the shame about where Wales are. It's no one wants. We're back to the start about the atmosphere. No one wants a free hit, and actually, the Northern Hemisphere's chances of winning World Cups, however much the occasional old school Englishman who went 25 years without winning in Cardiff, or remembers the day when David Soul walked out of Murrayfield and go, I hate those Scots and those pesky Welsh who never beat them. Actually, the reality is, for the Northern Hemisphere to win a World Cup, we've got to have a championship that's as hard as New Zealand, South Africa, Argentina, Australia coming back a little bit. The more free hits you go, the less chance you have of having the competitive games, or being stuck. Again, back on the maths thing, there's only so many different positions you can be put in. If you're only ever winning 48 points to 7, how many times are you stuck in your bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah,
with a man in the bin, needing to score late on, and being asked those questions, and under real pressure, not just we're 30 points up, we can try something, but how do people react? What's the whites of their eyes? What's their heart rate? How's their decision-making process going if you're constantly under pressure? So I was sidetracked there slightly, but it's just that's the frustration, I think, a little bit about England's game against Wales, is I love a contest, and a contest makes you better. And occasionally you lose a couple of contests, but that's part of life. Actually, winning tight ones against great teams they're the games that prep you for a quarter-final, a semi-final and a final.
Of course they are. And finally, we've got Ireland versus Italy in Dublin.
Yeah, look, I think Italy has always... They'll go, I think Doris burns too much class. Probably Sheehan comes back into your fantasy team. If you hadn't picked him in Paris because you're away, you think he's going to get on the back end of a couple of driving mauls. I think they'll have too much for Italy.
Cool.
So again, it's always I hate making predictions, particularly about the future. I think Vince Lombardi said that. Look, if it's a dry day, I think it's 30 points to 16. I think it's 10, 15 points. Ireland back on track. They've got to identify a bonus point. They came away with nothing from Paris. Their job is they probably don't care how many Italy. This could be a Kevin Keegan. They probably don't care how many Italy score, as long as they have 1 point more and they've got four tries. As long as Ireland get 5 points at the weekend, that gets them back into the contest because they know they probably feel they've done the hard one by going to Paris and getting cuffed.
Wonderful stuff. Right, it is time to open the floor up to our audience, who I'm sure will have some wonderful questions.
With the England and the current Wales sides, what would you do differently? Is there people that aren't being picked for England that you would pick, or is there in Wales same sort of thing that's not being picked?
Wales, I think Wales have got to try and sort out where their teams go. Well, I would be more brutal, but it's a lot easier being an Englishman on a Sunday evening watching a team that keep winning, saying go east-west and cut it down to two teams. So I don't think they've got enough players there. In terms of England, who's not being picked that I think is being unfortunate? Feel free to shout names. People are playing really well for their clubs. Would be so Greg Fizzilau, but try and get into that back row. He's a proper baller. I think Fizzilau, come the World Cup in 18 months' time, I think he might be in England's back row by then. You didn't want to get tackled by his dad. Absolute nut job. Tongan fella. And I played against him in 99, I think. But Greg, ex the Chiefs, filling out clever rugby player. So he's in the squad of 36. Centres, who's playing well. So, again, I think Seb Atkinson's a heck of a player, but you can't drop Dingwall. Ajomo had a cracking game against Argentina. But I think Seb Atkinson's a fab. But that's where England are now. You're thinking, you might remember a squash ladder. So you rank your players 1, 2, 3, and I think if you go our inside centres, Seb Atkinson could do with game time, but you understand why he's not being picked. Talked about, the back row, you got Fitz Harding, and Ethan Roots could come back into it. Are there any second rows around? I like the kid from Sale, Bamba, I think he's called, at 6'11", captained the under-20s a couple of years ago. He's awesome. So that's where you got to go back to my 9 out of 10.
Yeah,
I'm going through and I'm going. These players could. Where we lightest?
Where we lightest in terms of our cover. So I think most people would suggest maybe our props, but actually, when you look at where we were on Saturday, you'd say.
Yeah, Joe Hayes. I really like Joe Hayes.
Well, you picked him out as the one to watch, didn't you? For
really
England,
like Joe Hayes. Finn Baxter's not available. So if you 5 people get an injury, you're always going to have a problem. Props. Where do I think? And the answer might be Furbank. I still think we're a back three player light who just sees the game. Who just and again I go back potential throwback. I love a fullback. He was only sparkled for a year and then injured, but Bolshaw at his best. Cullen. Bolshaw will be delighted he's mentioned the same sentence as Cullen, but that blanco. And I still think no matter what data, what bench press, what squats you do, give me a back three player, Joe Roth, who just floats.
Yeah.
Who just floats and says, do you know what? I've got one wing who'll run through a brick wall for me. Massive. He's 6'4", he's 115 kilos. He runs a 10.5 100 meter. I've got another winger who's a straight out sprinter. He's a 10 200 meter runner. He's an Arundel. Now give me one of those. And I think England suddenly don't go from being discussed as potential World Cup winners. I think they're favourites to win a World Cup.
So let's assume Manny Feyo-Wabosu is fit next week.
No, he's not.
He's not.
It's a number of weeks. Yeah, it's literally just popped up. Yeah.
Okay, but let's say he was.
Well, why?
Because I want to know whether you'd pick him over Roebuck.
Yes. No, I'd pick him over Arundel.
Okay,
so
you go Roebuck.
I think Roebuck. Roebuck's good, man. The try he scored. Roebuck's made himself, if fit, undroppable.
It's really interesting because I would guess that a lot of the audience here and a lot of the rugby playing public would perhaps go, Arundel, he scored a hat-trick, he's undroppable.
Unbelievable. You score a hat-trick, you get dropped.
Well, there you go. But if Feyo-Wabosu was fit, you would have him in the side.
So now you're making me pick an argument with someone. I'm crossing a bridge I don't need to cross, but yes, I would.
Yeah.
It's outside centre, so I think Freeman can be as good. So the question, I think Freeman could be as good as Rico Ioane. Has Freeman got the hands? Up the left hand, up going left, right, he goes. He can put Roebuck away. Maybe not. And you go, ooh, all those, again, it's which camp you're in. All those that go, Freeman's not a centre, will go, told you so.
Yeah.
I'll then show you 15 clips where I'll go, he's absolutely unplayable as a 13. He'd carry hard. He comes off that, he attacks that seam on the edge of a line-out. They go back peel and he carries. He went past Edwards and nearly scored. He gets up the right-hand side and he passes an inside ball to Pollock. So that's where Pollock has to go. He needs to watch old tapes. You don't need to score a try 5 yards past the try line. Just dive low. Dive low, you score. I mean, we get a penalty try. It actually works well for England.
Yeah, I know, a penalty try. It did make me cross.
But Freeman, and then that last try he scores, people have probably left the ground by that stage. We go on a front peel, or we go on a drive, we get caught in the short side. Cowan-Dickey pops up the right. Hardy got caught a little narrow, so he busts that tackle easily. It's a bit like Tomba was the old skier. Do you watch downhill slalom?
Yeah.
They go through the gates.
Alberto Tomba.
Yeah, the Tomba La Bomba. They go through gates as though they're not there.
Yeah.
He used Hardy like a ski gate.
Yeah.
Bang, there. Then he steps back inside. Josh Adams is a unit.
Yeah.
Josh Adams is well over 100 kilos and a powerful. Steps inside him, bumps him, carries another over. Buffy, chairman of Maidenhead Rugby Club.
I just wondered if you'd give us an analysis on your fantasy league and what changes you might make going forward into the next weekend.
Great question. Great question. Who did really well for me? I was very pleased with. I scored 578 points, which is okay. I don't think it was amazing. But in my little group, which is me and my two lads, I beat my youngest by 1 point. He had a good team. He was very happy. My super sub wasn't great in Marcus. Got 9 points. Trebled to 27. I was pleased with my captain, Ben Earl. Came good. Byrne and Doris did well. Dempsey did well. Who didn't do so well for me had Finn Russell in there. I didn't look at the weather forecast. Oh, that was frustrating. So I had a couple. Front row's always the tricky one. I picked the wrong Italian prop. I'd picked Fischetti, who's awesome, who actually did well, 16, 17 points. But Ferrari got man of the match. It's like, when a prop gets man of the match, that is dreamland for your fantasy. Gouillard was excellent. I was chuffed with Deporter. So went all right. And you're always managing the 200 stars that you're allowed to get. So this week, I actually picked my team early without knowing where the selection's going to go. And I've never picked Ramos. I've always thought, but I've just thought he's so good. They're playing in Cardiff. He'll kick 6 conversions. he didn't score last week. Had a couple of assists. He'll get on the back end of one. Who else have I brought in this week? Okay. So the rogue selection might be Prendergast at 10, assuming he's picked. Ireland play Italy. Goal kick. They score 35 points. I actually think in amongst the chaos and the carnage of what was going on, he threw an interception, tried to Sogby. And there were occasions where you just thought, oof. But I think Farrell's famous last. I think Farrell sticks with him. I think he is the kid. I see enough. The little show and go he gave to pop to McCloskey, who gave to Timoney,
mate,
where
he's so good.
He sucked a Jegu to jump out the line, showed it when he's got time.
It was so good. It was that for me. That was the skill of round one. Was Prendergast, that moment that he put McCluskey through, because it wasn't just a pump. It was footwork as well. He did both things at the same time. Read the game. I mean, it was just
classy,
magical. And I was like, that was the skill.
And you've always got your favourite players in fantasy. Deporter is. I mean, he picked up 30 points. He should have scored. Should have scored. It was a heck of a tackle 5 yards out when they swept round right, left. Deporter and Guillard are my two little, but I think they're now no longer a secret. They're sort of out there as players who people go, cool, they're decent. But the guys who did well, if you go at the top of the fantasy league team this week, were the guys who super subbed Timoney. And everyone at the top end of the rankings, because he's a forward and he scored and it's treble points. So I think he picked up 90 points, Timoney. So the ones that have taken, I think my 570 is quite decent, but the ones are high 600s, which are leading like global league. You look at their teams and they all had Timoney. It's the super sub. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago, told my youngest, Kinghorn was on the bench. I said, he's going to get on early. Got on in the first minute and scored a hat-trick. Scored 210 points, I believe. It's like a record. So you can have a great team for all the right reasons. Where I did not want Freddie Stewart to be injured ever. But he went up for a high ball in the third minute. And he went down. I had Marcus Smith as my super sub. I went, he's on in the third minute. We're playing Wales. He's scoring 900 points on his own. Freddie got up and I was like, I'm really pleased for you, Freddie. I'm really, really pleased for you.
Can you join Fantasy League at any point?
Yeah. I mean, you're now a game behind, so you struggle to win. You'd have to pick the greatest. Yeah.
Can I say thank you to everyone? If no one listens to this, I've had a really enjoyable evening, having some pizza and some beer, talking sport, listening to Green's talk about rugby, which I think he does better than anyone else. So it's been a pleasure as ever. We are in Wokingham next week at Knead. We would love to see as many of you there as possible. It's a lovely way to end a Sunday night.
Right. Are you paying for my Uber?
Thanks, guys.